Hi and welcome to the show. Well, we're outside. We're in the outside. We're doing an outside broadcast. Welcome to Property News Update. My guest is Michelle Delaney from Better Homes and Gardens. Michelle, look forward to catching up with you and talking about all the stories that we're going to cover today.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. And what a beautiful day.
And what is it sensational?
Absolutely.
We'll tell you where we are in just a moment, but before we do, here are the stories we're going to cover for you today. How China sees our performance as an auction capital or auction capital of the world. We're going to talk about the block. Yes, the block is back. And that's a bit of a real estate twist to it. Well, I suppose it's all real estate, but
everything's real estate.
Everything's real estate in our world anyway. We're going to look at the slow death of an Aussie icon. Such a sad story, this one. The London mayor versus private landlords and celebrity homes that no one wants. Back in just a moment with those stories and more.
Did you know you can save up to 70% on your staff costs by outsourcing the low-value, repeatable tasks, so your team can focus on growing your business? Beepo is an outsourcing provider focused on the real estate industry. With an English-speaking, tertiary qualified and fully trained team in the Philippines, Beepo will give your business the boost it needs to start growing and returning value to you. For more information, visit beepo.com.au.
Welcome back to the show. Well, Michelle, here we are. We're at Woody Point, which is on the north side of Brisbane.
It is.
And you can see the water behind us. There's the Woody Point jetty as well. Woody Point's it's on the Redcliffe Peninsula.
It is.
It's one of those areas that I think's been underrated for so long, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. I've lived up in this area for, close to 12 years now, and I just love it. Love it. It's underrated. So
very much
where
so.
can you get an afternoon like this out on the water? Unfortunately, we're working, but you know.
No, I'm not working too hard, I've got to tell you. Actually, when I came down here to set up for the filming, Michelle was sitting over there in the sun.
I was.
Very nice.
I was.
But it's good to get you away. Congratulations on your new appointment too.
Thank you.
As the CEO for Better Homes and Gardens. Is that Australia and New Zealand or just Australia?
Australia at the moment. We will look at embarking into the New Zealand market moving forward. So we're very excited to bring the brand to Australia.
Yep.
With over 400 offices over in America. We're really looking forward to the brand being part of the Australian community, and it's such a beautiful lifestyle brand. So
yeah, well, we've spoken to Sherry Chris on a number of occasions as well. Lovely lady.
She's amazing.
Let's get down to business, hey? Right, our first story comes to us from the South China Morning Post. Interesting that we had to go to China to get a take on the Australian market, but I wanted to do that because to see how other countries look at us. And it was interesting to note that they talk about in the article price declines, 2 years of price declines in Australia, and how that could be turning around based on the clearance rates coming out of CoreLogic. We've seen certainly an increase in that. I think last week or the week before, we were getting 80% clearance rate out of Sydney, which is really quite incredible.
It is incredible. And we have seen the clearance rates rising across all of the states. And I think that the clearance rates rising is certainly a change in the market. It's showing a confidence in the market. And I think from the China perspective, I think they look at us and I mean, we're a beautiful country. We're stable. We've got some great schools and universities in the country, and we have such a wonderful online presence, I think, which makes it so much easier for the Chinese in the market when they're looking at Australia.
It's a huge market, China, and of course, speaking about online, I noticed also that Juwai this week have merged with one of the biggest real estate companies in the world, IQI Global.
Yes.
They've got 5,000 salespeople, 25 offices across 15 countries. So that's going to open up a huge audience for Juwai. A lot of good opportunities too for Australian real estate agents.
I think so too, and I think that merger is obviously, they wouldn't have done it if it wasn't going to be, something that was going to be successful. But that merger is such a key component of what I think we're going to see a larger movement moving forward in the Australian markets.
I agree. Hey, before we go to our next story, I just want to tell you that Real Estate Talk is out tomorrow, and in that show we're going to be talking about how brokers now are breathing easy and this has got a lot to do with the government saying that they're not going to put under review the trails, which I guess would have been a big concern for brokers, but we'll cover that in the show. Also, New Zealand property brakes are applied. Things slowing down across in New Zealand. Home House to the rescue. HAUS is how it's spelt. I'll tell you about that. It's a new app. Did we get it right at the start of the year? We go back and have a look at what some people said about what was going to happen with the property market this year and whether or not they got it right, and how not to get screwed when you're doing a bathroom renovation. A lot of fun.
That'll be great.
That's a good one, yeah. Okay, let's go on to story number 2. And this is a story about The Block. Yeah, The Block is back. It's back on Channel 9, of course. When is it? I think it's on August 4, Sunday week. And the twist in this one, the reason I'm mentioning it, because I normally don't like The Block, to be honest, because I think it sort of creates a false feeling for people about the value that they can get out of doing a renovation. But in this particular show, there's a real estate agent, Jesse, 29, and Mel, 31. One's a real estate agent, I think one is a contract administrator. They're both from Melbourne. They're going to get on The Block as well. So we'll see what happens. Incredible to note that there were 45,000 entries and they had to get it down to the lucky 5 couples. So 5 people out of 45,000, you've got to be pretty lucky to get through into that one. So you'd want to be pretty comfortable about giving up so much of your life.
Absolutely.
and making it so open to the public. That's reality television.
It is reality.
Okay, let's go to story number 3. We're going to show you some photographs in this one too, because I think it's a bit of a sad story. The slow death of an Aussie icon. Here I'm talking about the corner store, the milk bar. You would have grown up like me.
Absolutely.
It was such a treat to go down to the corner store and be entrusted to buy some butter or some milk.
Absolutely.
And there's always a little bit of money left over to buy some lollies.
Absolutely. And I remember, I was born and bred in the Blue Mountains in New South Wales, so I remember years ago Miss McCall's shop down the road, and it was, you know...
Isn't it incredible how you can remember that
Absolutely.
Mrs. McCall's name?
I remember that so clearly. But I think... it's such a sad thing that, you know, we're seeing the corner stores, the demise may not be the right word, but they're certainly disappearing.
Well, it's the end of that era.
It is the end of that era.
And we're bringing up a few photos to show you now of a few iconic ones around Australia. And I think it's good to see that some of them are being retained. They're being turned into properties, like homes for people to live in. Some are retaining a bit of a commercial. I've noticed actually a few solicitors moving into them too, and, conveyancers and accountants. So they offer that opportunity. But I hope when they do it, Michelle, they actually retain a bit of that outside.
I hope so too.
Imagery,
and retains the history. Retains that history. Look, I think as consumers, our lives are so busy now. We when we go to get the groceries, it's like, where can we go? We can get everything all at once, and online shopping now. So unfortunately, I do know there's still a really good little corner shop in Brighton, which I still frequent.
Is that right?
Pete's shop. So
it's interesting. I noticed in that article they did reference the fact that there are still a few open, and they're in the smaller regional type areas. And you've got to say that same as about Brighton or where we are here now.
Right.
It's not Cap City Market.
No,
but, did you know that the milk bar, Australia's first milk bar, was in Martin Place in Sydney, opened in 1932.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, before my time.
Mine too.
I think well and truly before your time. Hey, let's go to story number 4. This one comes from CNBC in the States about London.
Yes.
And the London mayor versus private landlords. The reason I picked up on this is because here we can see legislators trying to control the market. How the hell you can do that? The story here, Michelle, is that the Lord Mayor is responding to the fact that rents in London are quite expensive, so they're trying to regulate them. You know, the downside to that, of course, is going to be a disincentive for investors. Absolutely.
And I think that when I read this story, it took me back to my very early days in real estate, where I was looking after a number of protected properties that they were called rent protected properties.
Okay.
So,
so they were
properties that had I guess rent controlled, but they weren't. They were called protected. So, for example, if you
Were they
lived,
state-owned or government-owned?
no, they were actually privately.
Privately
Well,
owned?
yeah,
Oh,
but
okay.
if you were a tenant in that and it was rent protected, then you could stay there. And if you passed away and I was your wife, then I could remain there as your spouse
Oh, I see.
until
Yes.
such time.
Yes.
Look, the changes in our legislation move that forward, and now if you think about the tribunals have something similar, but it's called excessive rent claims. So if I go to put the rent up, but how you regulate something like that is it's hard.
It's
and
very, very difficult.
Yeah.
In fact, in New York, I believe they've got a similar scheme to what you just described.
Yes.
There, but you've got to, you have to have been in the property for. Now, what is it? It must have continuously lived in the apartment
Yes.
since 1971.
Yes.
So there we're looking at about 38, nearly 40 years,
Yes.
or be the lawful successor, which is really what you were just talking about.
That's right. And then the other change that occurred, I think, was in the 1960s into the 70s, where any premises that was newly built that an investor purchased would never fall under that rent protection law. So I actually haven't researched to see if there's any still left. There might be a couple down in Sydney somewhere. You just don't know, but it will be interesting. But how you regulate something like that is hard, and the investors will leave that London market, and the supply will dry up, and the
absolutely.
demand will remain. So what does that mean?
Yeah, I think the mayor has been criticised for his weak housing policy, and I think
Yes.
this is purely a political move because it's very unlikely that it will actually pass through.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so,
would
yeah.
be unlikely.
We are going to finish the show by showing you a couple of, I love doing this, the celebrity properties. Some
Yes.
celebrity properties have been on the market for quite a while. Can you imagine being a real estate agent trying to sell the property for someone like Tom Cruise?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What you would like it, I would hate it.
I actually think it would be a really wonderful experience. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about reality TV shows. You know that $1 Million Agent, that show you see
I
that.
don't like that.
I'm not like
no,
that.
I'm not a fan.
But to be able to sell a property like that for maybe not Tom Cruise, but I didn't mind, Alicia Keys's house or, some of the others. But what I have noticed is that they've been on the market for some time.
Absolutely.
So vendor expectations, do you think, Kevin?
We'll talk about that. We will talk about that. I want to bring a couple of them up first. Firstly, let's have a look at the Tom Cruise house.
Yes.
$59 million, over 300 acres. It was he bought the property about 20 years ago. When I didn't realise it was that long ago since he was married to Nicole.
Yes, it's been a long while. And interestingly, that he's only the third owner of that property in the last 100 years.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Is that right?
So it's got a lot of history, but yes, 20 years.
Yeah, it's been on the market for 2 years.
Yes.
So that probably tells you something. I mean, you'd buy it because it was Tom Cruise's house, but it's obviously overpriced.
Absolutely.
Let's go to our second one, John McEnroe.
Yes.
Tennis player. And his house does actually have a tennis court. Yeah, of course it would. It would do. It was listed in May, $14.5 million it's on the market for. It comes with a deeded beach access, so that wouldn't be a beach deeded, it would just be access to the beach.
I would,
yes. Yeah, its own
that's
tennis
what that would
court,
mean. 8
bedrooms and 7 why wouldn't you have 7 bedrooms? Have 7 bathrooms.
Well, you'd have a cleaner. If we could afford that house, you would have a cleaner.
You would.
Certainly.
You would indeed. You would indeed. Next one is Peter Thiel. Now, Peter, interesting. Peter was the co-founder of PayPal. A lot of money here. $8 million his home's on the market for. It was originally on the market for just a touch over $9 million, $9.25 million.
Yes.
But bought it down after about 4 months to $8 million. So that's one hell of a price reduction.
That's a price. Great work by the agent there, I have to say.
Well, that comes back to what you talked about earlier, doesn't it? About the feedback to the seller about
that's right.
what's
that's
happening
right.
with the market. Yeah. So our last one is a property that was is owned by Alicia Keys, and this was previously owned by Eddie Murphy. I love this one because did you see that it has its own professional recording studio?
It does.
You would have noticed that.
I did notice
Yes,
that.
yes.
I actually thought, now if only Kevin and I were over there, we could have popped it there, and then I got here and I went, no way, look at where we are.
Exactly.
Best country in the world.
Well, this is actually quite an old home. It's in New Jersey.
Yes.
Eddie Murphy owned it back, or bought it back in 2000. No, he sold it back in 2013. 8 bedroom, 14 bathrooms. Now tell me, how does that work? How does that work when you've got 14 bathrooms for 8 bedrooms?
Well, I guess the ratio, bedroom to bathroom ratio, is quite high, isn't it? But how does it work?
His and her bathroom.
His and hers.
That's probably
yes.
what it is.
And the children probably have their own, son and daughter get their own.
It's got its own indoor swimming pool.
Nice.
It has its own movie theatre, which you'd expect that Eddie Murphy would have. Would have, yeah. Professional recording studio, but a 2-lane bowling alley. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, in the White House, I think it's only a single lane.
I believe so. But, he's got 2. Maybe we could ring Donald and find out.
Ring Donald. 14.9 million. Hey, Michelle, it's been fantastic.
It's been fantastic.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you. And I've enjoyed being out here in the outdoors.
It's wonderful.
Beautiful Woody Point.
Yes,
on the
thank
north
you.
side of Brisbane, yes. Michelle Delaney, of course, has been my co-host, and Michelle is the CEO for Better Homes and Gardens in Australia. Michelle, all the best. Thank you for
very
being
much.
with us.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for the sunshine.
Yes, indeed. And watch out for Real Estate Talk. It's out tomorrow. And of course, we've got our auction update a little bit later today as well. I'll see you next time.